Ladies and gentlemen, thank you so much for being here. My name is Zach Stoffer, and this is the It's So Over podcast. First of all, I just want to say I am so excited and so happy to be using my professional setup now. I've put a lot of time and effort into this, as you might have seen on my little post. I have a setup that I feel confident in. We're not using the previous setup of doom and despair anymore. Glad to be rid of that. Glad to be moving on to a quality mic and camera. So thank you for bearing with me through that arduous time. But for today's episode, I want to talk about something that's been really prevalent in my life as of late, and I think also in other people's lives that I've been around. And that is friends and our own patterns. And I can imagine that y'all might be thinking, I'm going to go in right now on, this is what a bad friend looks like. This is what a bad friend is. Blah, blah, this. Bad friends, bad friends. Well, the truth is, and my truth is, I don't have to tell you or show you what a bad friend looks like, because you're looking at one right now. And to explain myself a little bit, I think some realizations that I've had with my life is that I haven't been the best friend. I haven't been very attentive to my friends. I haven't kept in touch. With some friends, I talk too much. I don't listen enough. I disappear. I'm not nearly as good of a friend as I want to be. And that's been a hard pill for me to swallow. And I kind of came to that conclusion because I have had the privilege of meeting hundreds, if not thousands, of people in my life, of being friends with so many. I've moved, I think, around 13, 14, 15 times in my life. Since graduating high school, I've even moved like 5 times. I've met so many people. I've had the privilege of, making so many friends, and it's been such a struggle for me to keep them. And, for a lot of my life, I sat there and I was like, okay, well, I just keep getting dealt a bad hand. I just keep having poor people that don't want to, stay in touch with me or don't care about me, blah, 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 blah. I kept thinking, it's not me, it's other people. But when you move as much as I have, when you've met as many people as I have, and you've struggled so much with consistent long-term friendships, I had to come to a point where as I said in my last episode, I got out of my own shoes. I really looked at myself, I looked at my life, and I said, what is the common denominator in all of these experiences? And the common denominator was me. While I would love to chalk it off as I was never the problem, in all of these instances, I was the problem. I have been the problem. And that's why in this latest chapter of my life, I feel like I've struggled so much with friendships. And I think there's been a lot of learning to be less self-centered and selfish. I feel like inherently we all may be a little bit that way. I think we all also have, these, not beliefs, but these expectations of friends like, oh, I need you to be this because that's what I would be for you. And when they aren't that, well, and I'm speaking mostly for myself here, this is what I have found that I do. When someone doesn't meet a standard that I set, because I have extreme bars for my friendships, I'm very cutthroat, I just decide, okay, they're not my friend, I cut them off. Or I stop talking to them. Or something I'm so terribly guilty of, and it has haunted me, is I'm really bad with unfollowing people on Instagram. I promise I don't just do it for my ratio. I just convince myself in my mind that, oh, I haven't talked to this person in years, like they're not relevant to my life anymore, and then I unfollow them, and then they'll leave like the most sincere, heartfelt comment on one of my posts, and I'm like, wow, I'm a terrible person. I think this is segueing into a really important point, is that just because someone doesn't talk to you, just because someone doesn't, check in on you every day or be the kind of person that you expect or hope them to be, that doesn't mean that they're a bad person. That doesn't mean that they're a bad friend. I think that I'm I like to think that I'm a good person, that, I try to put my best foot forward with people, I try to do right by people, and I try to be an honest and genuine friend. But I have my limitations. I have my shortcomings, I have my problems, my day-to-day trials and struggles that really prohibit me from being a good friend sometimes. And I give myself grace and I say, you know what, I'm trying my best. But that's something I think didn't click before for me is so are other people. The world is bigger than just ourselves. Everyone has a deeply intricate, confusing, and hard life, just like we may be having. Like, just as you may be watching this, like, some of you know, most of you don't know the crazy stuff that's been happening in my life recently, and I don't know the crazy stuff that's been going on in yours. But the premise here is that not all friendships end because of a fallout or some crazy bad thing happening or someone doing you wrong. Sometimes it's just a victim of circumstance and of time. I know that I have had so many friends that to this day I love and care for so dearly and deeply, even though I don't express that to them as much as I feel I should and would like to, that we just kind of, life went different ways. There are people that I was like, man, I'm going to be like naming kids after you. You're going to know my kids. You're going to be with me for the rest of my life. That they got married and they're off doing their own thing. And they're not bad for that, is what I'm trying to say. A lot of problems in friendships are from two flawed people trying to throw expectations or what they think the other person should be doing as like a label of sorts. Not a label, but as like a, I need you to be this kind of friend. They're trying to put it into a box. And I feel like I've been so wrong with that. And that is where I've had so much of my struggling. So I first of all want to apologize. If I haven't been the best of friend to you, I'm sorry. I'm trying my best. And one of the things that I'm really trying to do is give people more grace, just as I give myself grace. If I can change and I can be a better friend, so can other people. Now I think it's also important that while we give other people grace, while we, excuse certain things, there are some types of friendships in our lives that we have to put behind us. There are some people that we don't just outgrow, but maybe become negative or toxic, where they maybe once were the complete opposite. I've had a few friends that were, they were like my life. I would not be the person I am today without them. I wouldn't be anywhere near where I am or doing what I'm doing if it weren't for a few specific individuals. But I think sometimes people serve specific purposes in our lives. They're an amazing friend, brother, sister to us for a set time, and then we go our separate ways. And that doesn't mean that they're villainous, terrible people. But sometimes we gotta learn to accept that some paths diff. Some paths eventually differ in life. And some people get left behind not because, they're inherently terrible people, but you just are making different decisions. You're choosing different things. And I've had to let go of a lot of people. And that's been really, really hard. If you couldn't tell by this episode, I struggle a lot with letting go of people, with cutting off the right people, with with just being all over the place with my friendships, with my wants, my needs, and what I expect of other people. But what I would hope in me opening up about my struggles is that the thing I want you to take away is to give other people grace and the benefit of the doubt. Is to challenge yourself, like, what kind of friend are you? I love to ask the question of other people when I feel like they're doing me wrong, or I have this unrealistic standard I expect them to meet, even though it's not communicated. It's like, okay, well, would you do that for them? Like, what kind of friend am I being to warrant them treating me a certain way? I can be toxically eye for an eye sometimes. It's like, oh, well, you didn't wish me happy birthday, so I'm not going to wish you happy birthday. Or something stupid like that. That's just a random example. But the principle being, there's going to be all types of friends that you find in this life. And you are deserving of good friends, of lasting friendships. I've learned that finding good friends is rare. Keeping them throughout your life is even rarer. And you deserve good friends, but you also owe it to yourself to be the kind of friend that good people want to have around. And so I would invite all of you to, if you've been struggling with friends, in keeping friends, and making friends, whatever it may be, ask yourself, what are you doing? What kind of friend are you? Are you someone, would you want to be friends with yourself? That was a really hard one that I had to understand. It's like, man, the way I've treated some people and the way I've acted, it's like, I wouldn't be my friend for certain points in my life. It's like, man, I understand why that person cut me out. Like, dang, I was a mess. But the beauty in all of this is I give myself grace. I feel like I've changed. I feel like I've become a better man, and I can now be a better friend to people where I haven't been in the past. And that's life. That's understanding your own faults, limitations, and flaws, and knowing that just as I'm human and have all of those things, so does everyone else. So I hope that all of you learn your patterns, learn what's holding you back in friendships. What are you doing good? What are you not doing well? What could you be better in? I love to be reflective of my own life and my own actions and say, okay, where can I be better? What could I have done better? And where do I need to have the strength to maybe let someone go? I just want to remind you all that friendships or not, that you have value, that you are inherently unique, that there is a place in this world for you, and whether other people are there to help you feel validated in that or not, I want you to know I'm happy you're here. I'm happy you keep going. And I would invite you to be better. Not in the way of that you're lacking or that you're this terrible person now, but you can always improve. You can always learn, you can always grow, you can always become better. That is something I try to live my life by, and I try to continually do. Well, that's my yap sesh. Thank you so much for being here, for listening. I love you all so dearly, all 5 of you that listen to this podcast. But as always, my name is Zach Stauffer. This episode is so very over. But next week, and as always, every week after, we will be so very back. Thank you so much for being here. I will catch y'all next week.